Hello, welcome to Wetpixel Live. My name's Adam Hanlon and I'm the editor of Wetpixel, and I'd like to introduce Mike Bartick again from the Philippines. Hi Mike.
Hey Adam, how are you?
Hi, it's good to see you. Mike is, well, perhaps I should ask the question, Mike. How did you get into blackwater photography, Mike? How did you find out about it? What led you down the blackwater path?
Down to the dark side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've always liked diving in open water. I was at a photo club with some friends in Southern California way back when, and they had invited me to go out and do blue water diving on the weekend. So, I was totally inexperienced at that kind of thing. I was always used to diving on the substrate or shore diving or boat diving on, looking for nudibranchs, that kind of thing. So, I said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll try it. And I went out, we rolled overboard, and instantly, you are really in it, so to speak, a 360-degree environment. And so I started there in California doing blue water. And at about 2015, I was already in the Philippines, living here and working. And a friend of mine was sharing these just killer images of subject matter that, I had never seen. And I thought, my God, I have to see this stuff myself. And that was really the main draw for me to start traveling outside of California. And it is for all of us is to travel the world and see these amazing creatures. So, I thought, this is happening right here, right in my backyard. I have to take advantage of this. Yeah. So that's kind of, I was inspired.
So it's a long journey around, but Mike is now the manager and photo pro at Crystal Blue Resort in Manila, where he regularly, well, I think probably pretty much every night he's out diving blackwater. Is that right? Yeah. So
almost 20 nights a month.
Okay, there you go. So I think he's ideally placed to give us some insight into the gear, the photographic gear, that's suitable for using for blackwater. So I'm going to put Mike right on the spot and ask him for some gear recommendations and how he chooses his equipment to use on blackwater dives, photographic equipment. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks, Adam. Yeah. I'm a pretty basic photographer at the core, really, when it comes to blackwater diving particularly. So I like to have a streamlined camera equipment. Almost anybody can do these kinds of dives, photographically speaking. I've seen people with TG cameras, the Olympus TG cameras. I've seen, the 4/3 cameras. I've seen full framers. I've seen, there's so many different cameras and divers with cameras now that I've seen almost every different kind of combination in the water. For me, I'm a Canon. I'm an Icon shooter. You'll have to edit that part out.
No, I think I'll leave that
in. You're evil. No, I'm an Icon shooter. Always have been, and that's in my CNC housing. I'm a CNC Alpha, one of 4 on the planet, and I'm very proud of that. So, I use 60mm lens mostly because it has a nice wider angle of view, and the 60mm is probably the most forgiving lens you could ever purchase. It's great for macro, fantastic depth of field, nice contrast, all the things you need, plus a very close working distance. So all of those things really, really are the best, and the reason why I use 60mm lens. And with the Nikon, I can use a D500 or I can use a D850. I can use APS-C full frame, and it works very well on either one of those camera bodies. For Canon, sorry guys, you'll have to find something else that works. Actually, the 70mm Sigma lens works really well for the Canon full frame. So if I'm struggling what to find, that's a good go-to.
Mike, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to pause you there. I'm going to have to go and shut the dogs up. They're howling. Bear with me 1 minute. We'll just pause this now. We're recording again. Over to you, Mike.
Okay. So I generally use 60 millimeter lens on the Nikon D500 and on the 850.
Yeah.
60 millimeter lens really seems to be the go-to lens for blackwater. Unfortunately, Canon shooters that are full frame, they don't have that option. So a lot of the Canon shooters that come out have the 100 millimeter. Yeah. And so I try to encourage them. There's a great lens made by Sigma, the 70 millimeter art lens. Yeah. It's a very sharp, beautiful lens, and it allows you to have a slightly wider angle of view. And the reason why the 60 or that 70 are so good as opposed to using 100 millimeter is that you're able to frame your subject and track it better.
Right.
And then the other thing is lighting. With that longer lens, your working distance is pushed out slightly further, but then to get that framed well, you're talking about a distance of water that you're shooting through, yep. And then that distance creates haze, doesn't it? Yep. So it takes away from the contrast and natural beauty of the subject. So just by having that reduced working distance, it's really, really vital. So 60 millimeter, 70 mil. Go ahead.
So I mean, one of the things that I've really found with both the D500 and the D850, and I'm sure the D5 is the same, is the autofocus is so good. And that must be a really good advantage for Blackwater. I mean, you're focusing on small moving objects in Blackwater. So have you found that? Have you found that the focus mode, the D500, D850 focus is an advantage or not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the focus modes of those cameras, I mean, it's like the human eye.
Yeah.
It's really just remarkable. Yeah. And I have to say, I love the 850. But I think the D500 is just a tad faster when it comes to focus. Yeah. But that's easily traded for the resolution of the D850. So it's a bit of a toss-up, but you can't miss.
No.
Yeah.
No, they're great. And I think the 60 as well, it's really interesting that, I mean, that's a really sweet spot in terms of focal length for a lot of things, particularly on the D500. I think that I really, really like the combination of the 60 with the D500. Like you say, being able to focus close, it's just a great, it works really, really well.
Yeah. It really, really is. It really is. I don't normally use a 60 millimeter on regular dives, but unless I'm trying to do something, usually for a regular macro dive, it's 105 for me. But I love the 60, the bokeh on those things. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, we'll get sidetracked. So before I interrupted you, Mike, you were going on to lighting. So how do you light up these subjects then? Obviously, in the darkness.
Right. Okay. So first of all, we use that downline, and that attracts the subjects in. But, you can't just use the ambient light produced by the downline. You have to have some kind of a focus light. Yeah. So what I use is, again, I'm sponsored by Crack, and I have two major sponsors. One is for lights, one is for my camera equipment. But Kraken has a wide range of lights that are not expensive. They're not going to break the bank. Yep. Building these downlines. So I use the Torch 3500S, right. And it offers nice different modes of light, first of all. But for me, my focus light, which is mounted in the middle on a long clamp right over the front of my camera,
right.
A nice broadcast of light on the lowest power.
Right.
And that enables me to light up the subject right in front of me.
Right.
And then hanging from my BC, I use a torch, okay? It's either 1600 or 2000 lumen torch with a very tight beam.
Right.
So two completely different torches. One, the handheld I use for hunting, so I can locate my subject, right? Because it has that tight beam has a really good beam throw.
For distance.
And then I can work, and then I can work myself over the subject, and then my focus light then takes over and allows me to start working on that subject.
Yeah. Cool.
So having a good quality focus light is essential, and one that's going to last at least 2 dives or so, or more.
Yeah. And then so strobes. So I know I dived with Linda, and I know in Florida at the end of last year, before Dima. I know I think I'm correct in saying she had 4 of the big Icolite DS161s that she was using, and the idea obviously is to produce throw and to produce volume of light in the darkness. So how do you go about actually lighting your images, Mike? What's your strobe setup?
Okay, so like I said before, I have a simple approach to this. I task load very easily. You wouldn't think so when you look at me. I have all this junk hanging around me when I go in the water. But I know. But I actually do task load pretty easily. So I stick to 2 strobes. I use the CNC strobes, the D2Js. I'll have the D3s when I get back to the US, but D2Js. And they're excellent strobe for this. And there's 2 different diffusers that come with it. There's a 120 and the 100. I usually use the 100 degree diffuser. Just allows that light to be a little more concentrated, and it allows more light to come through that diffuser, and it's really more directional. It's very functional. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. It's just the one that I prefer to use.
Sure.
So, D2J with the 100 degree diffuser is what I usually use.
And you're firing your strobes manually?
I do. I'm a manual shooter.
Right.
And I don't even look at my strobes. In fact, when I'm teaching people how to shoot photography, I just tell them it has to be done by touch, because you can't take the time to take your eye out of the viewfinder, look at the strobe, make your adjustments, put the strobe back.
Yeah.
The moment it's gone.
Yeah,
so it's all done by touch.
Yeah.
Turn that strobe all the way up, and then 3 clicks back, 2 clicks back.
Yep.
It's a third of a stop each time. So, for me, that's exactly what I do. Full power, 3 clicks back.
Yep.
That's my jump start.
Yep.
So when I jump off the boat, that's my jump set. But so I have to compensate for that by using a higher ISO.
Right.
Yeah. So in the blackwater, because as we know, there's obviously no ambient lighting. So we really have to compensate for that. And at the same time, we have to have a faster cycle time. So we can't just full blast. And as a lot of shooters gain more experience, you'll learn that having full power on your strobes doesn't necessarily mean anything more than extra backscatter. So, it's all about finesse, right? It's all about finesse. So you're your subject, having that fast recycle time, and using a higher ISO, like 320 is usually my highest. Start at 320 to 400, and then f-stop around f18 to start.
Right.
And that seems to be a nice jump set.
So the f18 obviously is giving you the depth of field, and the ISO is allowing you to allow the strobe light to reach the subject, basically, so it allows you to, it lightens the scene up. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. A lot of times these subjects are moving. They're circling, they're spinning, rotating, like through space. And so you'll see the subject, you'll see the eye spinning around. So you'll see it. You'll need to fire off a couple of shots. Then you wait. Here it comes again. And so timing is everything, and having that fast recycle is everything again. And I'm not overly concerned with depth of field as I would be if I was on a substrate shooting standard macro. I'm more concerned with using that f-stop in a way to either get better exposure on a translucent subject. So I might open my f-stop to allow more light in, right? Or I might stop down to decrease the reflection on a shiny fish. So
that makes sense, Mike.
Yeah, it's not as much, technically speaking, as the depth of field, but more or less a dimmer switch or dimmer knob for the exposure.
That's great advice, Mike, and thank you for that. So lots to go out there. I think that's a good primer for people planning to get out and shoot blackwater. Where can people find out more about Crystal Blue Resort and the blackwater trips you run? Well,
you can go to our website, www.divecbr.com. We host safaris throughout the year where people come out. We do nothing but blackwater diving all night, every night. our Facebook pages. You can find me on Facebook, Mike Bartick, the Blackwater Photo Group,
Yeah, really
and
good.
also on Instagram at DiveCBR.
That's perfect. Thanks for that, Mike. We'll get you back to have a look at some of your images soon, if we may. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'd like to thank our sponsor of this episode, which is Reef Photo and Video. So please, if you enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel to see more and to get notified when we produce additional episodes. Please, as I mentioned, like this video if you like it, and please feel free to add suggestions for any episodes you'd like to see in the future. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you soon.